everybody, welcome back to the Hollow Knight Marauders podcast and Hollow Knight Marauders Live. Joined here once again by my bomb bad Jedi pals,
Wow,
Jamie and Matt.
that took a while to think of.
No bomb.
How'd you think of that one?
Use your brain.
But yeah, how you guys doing? Doing well since last time we chatted about the Bad Batch.
You know, I'm pretty sad, but I think we all know why. So, but
yeah,
you haven't seen the Phantom Menace in theaters a third time. I know.
That's
pretty sad.
That's why.
Qui-Gon didn't make it. So,
spoilers.
Speaking of the Phantom Menace, we saw the Phantom Menace the other day with these two guys here, Carl from Wampa's Lair and Greg Ion Cannon. How are you guys doing?
Doing fine. So glad to be here. It was so awesome finally meeting you in person. I mean, we live within a half hour of each other and it's been years, so it was great. What a delight.
Oh yeah.
Half hour, man, that's a good traffic day. But yeah, and the screening was so fun. It was, I've been too many times to see Phantom Menace in the theater this week. But that was by far the best one with awesome people and a good crowd. I was just recounting how somebody was in the crowd going, "Where is she? Where is she?" There she is when they saw Yaddle, and nowhere else was anybody excited to see Yaddle. So.
We had that. We had the EOP fart applause, standing ovation for that, of course. It was a fun time. It was fun to meet you guys in person finally. Although, Greg, I did see you. We saw you briefly at Celebration Anaheim.
We've had a lot of
the Bad Batch panel,
close encounters. Like there's been that one. There's been Star Wars Night at Fenway once before, and so officially we all actually saw each other. So thank you guys so much for coming. For those in the chat and those listening who don't know what the heck we're talking about, we had a screening of the Phantom Menace. We rented out a theater in Boston, and we invited a bunch of friends to come see it. And we were so excited that our fellow podcasters got to join us as well, and so actually to finally meet you guys. And it really was a legendary screening. Like we had people screaming for Yaddle. We had Matt like breaking everyone's eardrums with like screaming for the EOP fart. It was absolutely legendary, and it was a really wonderful weekend. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, glad to be here.
The New England Star Wars podcast people.
We are.
Well, I think we're still missing a few people, but I mean, it's like a little crew here, so
little corner of the galaxy. But yeah, we're here today to talk about. I did want to talk about the Phantom Menace and it being back in theaters, and we are kind of talking about that. And our question of the week that we'll get to in a moment has to do with that. But our first segment here that we have is get to know the guests. So both of you guys, how kind of a simple one for you guys, but how did your Star Wars journey start? And how did you kind of get into doing Star Wars podcasting as well? Whoever wants to go first. I don't know. Roll a chance cube.
You can first.
I just happen to have a chance cube here. I guess okay. Thanks, Greg. I'll go first. I mean, I grew up falling in love with Star Wars through two of my cousins when I was like 8-9 years old. Back in the dark times, the mid 90s there. And of all the things I loved growing up, Star Wars was the first thing that was like, oh, this is something totally unique. It's so different. It's so much more exciting. And I just never looked back. And as I grew up, it just kind of grew up with me. I think it took on like a whole new plane of existence when I went into college and I studied religions, and I started seeing all the overlaps from Star Wars with religion. I started thinking about it like more critically, more analytically. It was like finally after finishing grad school and starting my first job as a teacher, and I was like, oh, I actually have money of my own. And I knew Star Wars conventions were a thing. And I got invited to go to Star Wars Fan Days in 2011, which was out in Dallas, Texas. And that's where I bumped into who's now my co-host, Jason. And in 2011, I was just like, he was the most peculiar Star Wars fan I had ever met. And I mean that in the most endearing way, because when we were parting ways, like he lived in Texas, I live in Boston. And I was like, do you want to start a podcast together? And he was like, let's do it. And, I came back to Boston and researched how do you start a podcast, and we never looked back, and it's just been tremendous fun.
And that was what, like, I think you said you're doing it 12 years.
Yeah. So our first episode came out in October of 2011.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
Oh my
like
God.
you had to look up how to start a podcast
Yes.
then. Like now everyone does it. So it's like
Yeah, and it's so funny because like I have so many I working at a college campus, like a lot of students often get assignments where they have to make podcasts. So they'll come to me and they'll be like, "Carl, what's your advice? Like, how do I do all this?" And I'm like, "I really don't know. I still do it in a very archaic way. Like you probably know better than I do. So could you help me actually be more streamlined?"
everyone has their own ways.
It's
Yeah.
definitely one of those
great.
situations. It's like, oh, you go out and figure it out yourself and then report back to me. And you're just like secretly taking your notes. So you're like, yeah, that's good. Oh, that's really good.
Greg, how about you?
I haven't seen Star Wars. Is it good? I'm looking for no. Let's see. I actually am very proud of the fact I had an older friend whose name was Melissa, and Melissa introduced me. It was a close family friend, and I think, looking back on it, probably our parents were like going out to a fancy dinner or something. So I was dumped at their house with a babysitter, and Melissa chose to put on some movies, and she had 2 VHS copies of one of Empire and one of Jedi. And as soon as The Empire Strikes Back came on, I was hooked instantly. And I always throw that back at the people who say, only dudes are Star Wars fans. I'm like, no, I wouldn't be a Star Wars fan without a female mentor. And it was actually a number of years until I saw A New Hope, because she didn't have that VHS tape. And I think these were taped off of HBO. And like Carl, I'm a child of the dark time. So that, if I had to guess, that was probably around 93, 94. And as I made friends in middle school and went on, I got more and more into Star Wars, and it was like the world delivered. It's like, oh, you like Star Wars? How about the movies back in theaters with some cool new effects? Do you want to go back and see episode 1 and see how this all started? And I mean, what is the story of the last 20 years except more and more and more Star Wars? So it's been a blessing. I consider myself a professional podcast guest, not a host. And that's really how I started, is I guested on Carl's show for the first time ever after Carl and I met in line for Midnight Madness for Force Awakens at the Toys R Us in Woburn, Matt, which is no longer there, but that's where we met. And then got to know Carl and did his podcast. And I just, especially during the pandemic, started circulating. And finally, Greg, my co-host at Rebel Base Card, he said, I think you're too good just to be a guest. Why don't you come host the show with me? And he and I do recap shows for all the Disney Plus shows. And that has evolved into so many projects. I spend a lot of time down here in my basement talking at a microphone instead of having other social connections. I'm forever telling family, like, oh, I'm sorry, I had to be in the base that night. So, but I love it. And, podcasting is such a big part of Star Wars fandom now, and such an important part, and how I've met a lot of my really good friends. And it's taken me a while to say that word, even if it's people I only know on the internet. But now you 3 are friends because we met in real life. So yeah,
absolutely.
Official, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I'm glad you bring that up about podcasting so important to Star Wars and the community. And it really is, like, Jamie's hugely into cosplay, and I'm into cosplay as well because of it. And we had like the cosplay community at our first celebration we went to in Chicago. And then by the time Anaheim came around, a pandemic and everything later, like years later, we started our podcast. And it's like, we know so many cool people from just doing this podcast.
That's wild.
That's really the best part of it, is meeting everyone. And, you guys are obviously on that list as well. It's like, it's cool when we can go to celebration, and if we're all there, and you meet these people, online, and it honestly isn't weird anymore to say you have online friends. Like, that was probably weird at a time, but like
not anymore.
After 2020, especially, it's like, it's very
just
normal
like
now.
Online friends, online friends, and eventually you meet in person, but that's not a requirement. Right. I want to say, Carl, I like your Star Wars room. I think you were telling us about how you were kind of arranging things. I think it came out very well. It looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been living in my current apartment for 7 years, and when I moved in here, So most Boston apartments are kind of the same setup, right? Like you got the front living room, middle room is a dining room, kitchen. I was like, who uses a dining room anymore in 2020? So that's the dining room is essentially my Star Wars room, but I've been podcasting like in my bedroom for years. And
gotta get a
on Star Wars Day, thanks. On Star Wars Day this year, I was just like, I'm gonna spend my afternoon making this a space where I can podcast from. Because, right, like I think those of us who are fortunate enough to have a space to dedicate to our Star Wars collections, it's a space of inspiration. I remember the first time I went to Rancho Obi-Wan, and I asked Steve Sansweet at the end of the tour to people that don't have an entire chicken coop to set up and I certainly don't have enough to fill it. But his advice was really simple and quite lovely. He's like, I have two pieces of advice. He said, first off, I think it's important to display what defines who you are as a Star Wars fan. Like display the things that define what Star Wars means to you. He said also another popular thing is to just display scenes of things, right? Like take your action figures, set up scenes or things like that. I think one of my favorite things with Star Wars collecting is, especially in light of like getting involved with conventions, is like Artist Alley. Like one of my closest friends, Joe Hogan, is a Star Wars artist, and I love to fill my space with Star Wars art. And it's always a delight when you like know the artist too. You're like, oh, I know this is a person, and like I get to hang up what like inspires them about Star Wars to inspire me about Star Wars. So yeah, this is my second time doing a podcast in the room. We did one a couple nights ago, and it's just like, everywhere I look, it's Star Wars stuff rather than my bed. So it's like so great,
Very cool.
And I've been jealous because like Greg said, he's been a professional podcast guest for a while now, and Greg has one of the coolest Star Wars collections of any of the friends I know. And every time I like watch him do stuff or we have him on the show and I just look behind him, I'm like, man, everything in there is so cool. And then I look behind me and I'm like, all right, well, there's a photo of my cat or something, right? Like it's like I need to get down there. Greg is like pulling me, like, let's do this.
My eye is drawn to that Stellan Gios lightsaber. I cannot.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
I have to get my hands on one. It's killing me.
He has had his hands on one.
Yeah, I have a fun video about that.
yeah. In our backyard, he like ran away. I have it in the box on the floor next to me right now, but I haven't transitioned it up to everything because I'm still in Bad Batch mode myself, and I didn't have time to rearrange everything tonight. But he's there for the Acolyte. He's gonna come up and he's gonna be on my display. But we'll get there when we get
Everyone
there.
needs an inflatable N1 starfighter as well.
That is true.
I'm pretty jealous of that.
That's my favorite thing.
Probably a little bit cheaper though. Probably a little bit cheaper than the
yeah, a little bit. But yeah, no, those great answers of how you guys got started. I love all the stories behind that. It's always awesome to hear like everyone's little story. They're usually always like pretty similar, but little details are different.
I think one of the coolest things, like as we're like moving ahead, like through meeting our friends through Star Wars podcasting as well, is a lot of it always goes back to we're all inspired so much from our friends, and it's so cool to actually see it reflected back like as well. Yeah. So even something as simple as, oh, I want to like show off all of my cool stuff, and like I want to actually like talk with these people when I'm able to like see them. Like it's just always so I get so inspired after like every single time we have like a new guest like on our show, because I'm like, oh my god, that person was so cool. Like I'm so glad we got to actually talk to them. So it's always a good feeling.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And looking at the guests and the people who showed up to the movie on Sunday, that inspired the hell out of me. Because I just love looking at everybody going like, look at this little community.
Is that why you took a 180 and immediately completed a script for a new video like right away?
Yes, actually.
I've been churning out stuff this week, guys.
That is. I'm going to tell you later, but I'm working on another one.
To tease.
Well, and Matt, I have to share that every time I want to share a selfie of Carl and I from the event, your mom is behind us, so she cameos in all my social media
on her
posts.
Birthday.
I'm glad she was there.
It was his dad's birthday.
It was my dad's birthday, but he's back there.
Yeah.
He's lurking back there as well.
Amazing.
All the way in the back.
Yeah.
No, and I just, again, like a note of appreciation for the event you all did this past weekend, because even with all the Disney movies that have been out in the last few years, I don't think I've had such an exciting time in theaters as I did this past weekend watching Phantom Menace with you all and, the folks that you gathered. Just when people cheer when A Long Time Ago comes on and then cheer harder as the crawl starts.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like I felt like I was back in 1999. Like, 'cause that was the hardest cheer I've ever heard in my life at a Star Wars movie was the first time I saw Phantom Menace in '99, and I think like the closest thing I've had to that was this past weekend. And I immediately pulled my phone out because I was like, all right, I know this is going to have a good reaction. And I was like, I'm going to take a video of this because I know it's going to be great. So I purposely didn't yell because I was like, I don't want to overpower everything. But I was so glad because Greg was right next to me and he yelled real loud. So I was like, yeah,
I gotta see that
so
video.
glad.
I don't know if I've seen
I know.
it.
I
so
definitely
glad.
have to see that.
It's in the archives.
We almost recreated the Rick McCallum intro. I
Oh,
say
we
we,
wanted
but it
to.
was
It's
Abe
awesome.
who wanted to do that. Where he was, this is fucking awesome. And
I
everybody-
climbed up.
You guys, okay. I need the chat to know that both AJ and Matt, before it started, they both had to run to the bathroom, like as we're starting the thing. So I'm trying to like gather them so we
I'm
can
so
just like
excited.
talk to our gathered group. And then one of them was in the bathroom, and I'm trying to like coordinate like chatting with people. We have our friend Connor taking photos. He's like, "Oh, let's take the group photo," and I'm like, "I can't. They're in the bathroom." And it's just like, guys, just anyway.
and the best part is AJ goes, and then I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So then he comes back, and then I go like immediately after because I'm like, oh boy, I'm waiting too long.
Nuts. Anyway, it was good. It was good showing.
Can I ask you a really awkward question? Well, it's not that awkward. But
Go
if you had to, so whenever I go to movies multiple times, I always have like a bathroom scene. Like, all right, this is the scene where I can be comfortable going to the bathroom. So I really love the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, which is obviously quite long. So
Yeah.
when I saw that multiple times in theaters, I definitely had a bathroom scene picked out. And I did have one in my mind for Phantom Menace. I was like, all right, if I have to run to the bathroom, this is the scene I'm going to run. And I'm curious if you all like, if you had to pick your bathroom scene from Phantom Menace.
That's a tough.
Well,
This is a really awkward question, but like, if
I
you
think
have
too
to
much-
talk out, like, what's that moment for y'all?
This is a really awkward question, but it's not really that awkward question if you are familiar with the Hollow Knight Marauders, honestly.
Well, and if you were looking closely, you were probably watching the film when we went. But I drank too much soda, and I did have to go to the bathroom again during the movie.
He did.
So I actually went, and it was the fastest I ever went and came back. 'Cause
I was
Matt like, "Did you even
impressed.
go?" But it
That
was
like
right.
a minute. You were gone a minute.
I left right when they right before there's a storm coming, Annie.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I got back like just right between Sebulba fighting Jar Jar in the street, and then there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
Annie.
So
That's when I
so
went.
Jar Jar is fighting, or Sebulba's beating the crap out of Jar Jar on the ground, and he goes over. He goes, "What am I gonna miss if I go to the bathroom? Right? It's this." And I go, "Yeah, just about." He goes, "Okay." He gets up. He comes back just as she's saying, "There's a storm coming, Annie," and he says that as he's sitting down. Time it. Time it. Anybody who's got the Phantom Menace on ready to go, time how long he took. It's like 2 minutes, not even.
He double confirmed this. Like he asked Matt, but right before he asked Matt as well, he asked me, and I was like, I don't know, maybe you can go like while they're all having dinner. But he was back before like that scene even happened, and I'm like, all right. So
Iconic. So there's my answer.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lived experience answer. It's
Yeah.
great.
There you go.
I don't know.
I might say
Does
the
anyone
same
else-
thing.
anyone else have a different
Maybe
answer to that?
I hate to say it because I love the scene, but I might say my bathroom scene would be when they go to the sacred place. I mean, it's right before the climax, right before the third act. So definitely want, my bladder emptied before the third act so that I can enjoy it without having to worry.
honestly,
Because
I
when
think-
Duel of the Fates hits, everything flows. So yeah,
Exactly.
you gotta
be careful. Gotta be careful. Can't be full of pee when that happens.
I think for me, this might be a bit of a hot take for a hot question here, but I feel like I would probably go when it is the scene when Padme goes to address the Senate, because like we all know
Okay.
what happens there, and the Senate is kind of a drag, and it's just Palpatine like whispering in her ear the entire time anyway. So
You
You're
gotta be there to
missing
see
my point.
ET.
No.
yes,
Yeah.
so you
gotta
gotta
be there to
be back in
see-
time for that, and you have to make sure like you hear like the beforehand of like all of that. But once like it's like they're starting to have their conversations like in like the private chambers, I'm like, let me just dip out really quick
Yeah.
and I'll come back.
You got to see
That's a
Lot
good
Dodd
question.
floating in, going, "These baseless accusations. I am offended by these baseless accusations."
Should that be our unofficial question of the week, or should I pull up our actual question of the week?
I think that's a fun one. I mean,
That's a
if-
pretty
if-
good question of the week.
If we can do
Alright.
the next question
Lightning
really quickly.
lightning round.
Yeah.
Okay.
In seeing the Phantom Menace on the big screen, is there something new in the Phantom Menace that you happen to notice I don't think I typed this out.
I got a big one. Yeah. Well, not a big one. So Greg very, very much like jokingly threw out to me at the start of the year, like, hey, Carl, 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace. Can you watch it 25 times this year? And I have taken on that challenge. I'm at 15. Not in theaters, but like I've only done it 3 times and twice in theaters. But so I've been watching a lot of Phantom Menace for the last like 2 months. That said, I was like, I gave myself a week off before the movie came to theaters. So I was like, Carl, give yourself a break, see that you'll love it more. But the thing that actually really did, I've never noticed this before, and obviously the advantage of the big screen is when they land on Coruscant and Anakin is kind of like starts to follow like Padme and her retinue. You get to see, I think it's really impressive that Jake Lloyd acts this well for being on a green screen, but he just looks up in kind of wonderment at the expanse that is Coruscant. And I had never caught that before. Just that look of wonder. Cause it's like, of course he would. This is like a boy from a back planet world now in the like most busy place in the galaxy. So I love that
too.
Yeah. It lasts, a couple of seconds, but I had never noticed that before.
Yeah, he almost like looks up and he's looking around.
Yeah.
I noticed that. There's so many small little things I noticed. And there was a bigger one that I noticed too.
Yeah.
I have to grab my notes. Give me a moment.
Yeah, what a good question, Anthony. What a great question.
Anthony, yeah.
Asking the question, Anthony.
It was AJ. I'll be honest, AJ plugged this question in today. It was from him because he had a big revelation like in his recent watches. To go off of your answer as well though, one big thing that I noticed in this recent viewing of it on screen was when they all first land on that platform, Jar Jar's on the background, has no lines this entire scene, but he's in the background like waving at like the guards and like trying to like get in there like visor and whatnot. And he's just making faces, and that's something I've never noticed before, just due to like the cropping and whatnot. But it's so funny to see him like trying to like get like a rise out of these guards, and it's just like that's adorable. I'd love to see that.
It's so like with the British guards there in London.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Completely unflappable, but like Jar Jar is trying.
That's so good. I still haven't noticed that.
Who wants to hear my list of things I've noticed so far?
Go ahead.
So there's the thing Carl just mentioned, which I'm glad you reminded me. There's the music during Watto and Qui-Gon talking after the race. There's like that weird like opera type music. I don't know what it is.
It's
diegetic. That's the thing.
It's diegetic. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I never noticed that really. I mean, if I did, it was a while ago.
Yeah, the title of the track on the like extended score is where is it? The Street Singer. So
there you go.
Okay. And like keep in mind, Phantom Menace is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, one of my favorite movies ever, because I've watched it a million times. And you're gonna get is that it there?
That's it.
Sorry, I was like, I'll throw it up real quick.
Quick draw.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got nervous for a second because I didn't know if y'all do like copyright things. So I was like,
there might be.
No,
but that's it.
What are you talking about? What are you didn't do anything.
That's the one.
We were talking over. It's all good.
There's Hat Guy at the pod race before they start. Matt and I noticed him. He has like it looks like it's like a, you noticed it too, Matt. The guy that has a hat he
had like the funniest hat. I don't remember what it looked like, but I remember looking at it in the theater and going, holy crap, this guy's got a great hat. Like,
it looked like it was like a knit hat or something.
Yeah, it looked like I don't even know what those are called, but they have like the ear flaps, and then there was like another one like folded up, and then there was something on top, and I was like, what the hell is this guy wearing on Tatooine, no less?
So next on the list here, like I said, I have a list. The scrub droids. I have the toys, and I know of the toys, but I saw them for the first time twice. They're in the hangar the first time they go in, when they confront the battle droids before they leave Naboo. They're in the background squealing around a little bit, and then they're in Watto's shop, like up on the shelves under the pit droid, and they're all those ones are all dusty. And then this last one is a big one, and this one's been going around, so I'm not alone here. And Jamie noticed it too. I'm bringing Jamie in with Jamie.
This
in with
is
me.
Crazy. I pissed them off.
I've never
last night
noticed.
I was making fun of him.
I've never noticed Qui-Gon do the hand gesture mind trick to Boss Nass 3 times.
He didn't know Qui-Gon mind tricks Boss Nass. That blows my mind.
I never noticed the gesture, so I thought he was just like, I don't know, but call me crazy.
I agree with that one. I had seen the gesture for like the 2, but he's even doing it when he says Jar Jar has a life debt. Your gods say his life belongs to me, and there's another one there that I hadn't noticed that one before.
Yeah,
like the whole conversation. It's crazy.
So
and I love it how casual it is because he's just kind of like he moves his body with his arms, so you don't exactly notice like he's like.
It almost looked like he was just talking like an Italian,
with his
like,
hands.
hey.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there you have it. There's my list, and
you forgot one.
I have a couple. that haven't been mentioned on mine. Well, I had a lot of fun watching the Handmaidens and finding times when Kira is there without the makeup on, because usually Kira is as Kira Knightley as Sabe, but there are a couple shots you just see her without the Queen's makeup on, and also watching for huge film director Sofia Coppola as Handmaiden as well, and it's you can peek her under the hood a couple times. She's always in the background, and it's just crazy to me that like Academy Award nominated director is there just because it's her dad's buddy making a movie.
That's incredible.
That is wild.
And then my last one, I often say one of the things I would kind of not change. It's a masterpiece. It's a 5-star movie, but just nudge a little bit is to make a little more stakes on Naboo, so that you maybe saw a little more of the suffering, so you understood why the Queen was so worried.
That's a good point.
When they were marching the Queen out as the Jedi approach, there's an extended shot down the avenue, and I had never really noticed how many groups of Naboo citizens are back there kind of being grouped up and marched off to the camps. So that means my criticism is invalid, right? It's there. We just didn't necessarily notice it, or you can't see it on your grainy VHS copy at home.
I'll have to check that out next time.
I noticed that too, actually, so I'll add that to the list.
And you forgot another one.
What was the one I forgot?
When we were in Watto's shop and we were checking out the droid getting the spa treatment in the background, and you turned to me and like, check out that droid. He's living the life.
Getting the scrub.
I was like locked on that. So that was good. In terms of noticing new stuff, I don't know if I noticed too many new things other than the ones you listed, like the hat and the droid. But I will say one thing I mentioned to you guys earlier, like a couple of days ago, was I'm reading the novel The Living Force right now that just came out. And in it, the setting of the Living Force is the Utmian route, which is like a hyperspace lane with a bunch of planets. And when Watto is talking to Anakin about the Outlanders he brought in, he uses the word Utmian for Outlander. And I picked that up. I said, holy crap. The Utmian route, which is like near Hutt space in Huttese, Utmian means Outlander. And I just thought, I was like, I put that together. I was like, wow, that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice. Yeah.
So new things in the Phantom Menace. I got to keep going so I notice more things. I'm sure I will. So,
yeah.
Jamie and I have now been twice. So
2 times.
Plan on doing at least 4. I actually want to follow Carl in his challenge of doing 25 this year.
I know.
Yeah.
I want to remind you.
Doing that.
I'm probably at like 5.
I want to remind you, Matt just mentioned earlier this year, I think off stream, I was trying to suggest, hey, it'd be really funny if we did a 25 watch through of the Phantom Menace, to which you said, nah.
I was with you. I backed you up.
And I'm like, we're probably gonna watch this movie 25 times this year anyway, because that's just like how we are. Like, it is one of our core like Star Wars movies, and I'm upset.
I think what you proposed was something crazier though.
What I had proposed, what I don't remember what the original proposal was, but I remember part of it was, let's watch it 25 times. We'll do some sort of reaction to it, and then as the year goes on, it gets progressively more unhinged because we're like, oh my god, we're watching this movie again. But I guess we're not.
You said to do it. So. You said to do 25 reaction videos to the Phantom Menace.
I wanted to do 25 commentaries to the Phantom
Menace. To hang on to them
for 25 years.
And you compile it as you go along. You don't edit it all at once. You edit it as you go. Anyway, we didn't end up doing it because
that's like 60 hours of content.
It's not going to be that long of a thing. It's going to, whatever. It's not even going to happen anyway. So
we're now half an hour into this episode, and
we
still haven't gotten to
only talking about the Phantom Menace,
which is very on brand. Very on brand.
Let's
especially if you get us talking about the Phantom Menace. That's dangerous.
Tales of the Empire.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So remember about a month ago when they announced that Tales of the Empire was Tales of the Empire, first of all? And then we actually got it from May 4th. So we got the 2 sets of episodes, one about Morgan Elsbeth and then one about Bariss Offee. We'll talk about Morgan Elsbeth first and then go into the Bariss one, since that's the order in which they were released. But any like burning thoughts, like offhand, just about Tales of the Empire before we dive into it?
I mean,
burning.
We're always very authentically positive. Is that like we're not making up being positive when we like things. But I honestly was a little underwhelmed with Tales of the Empire. I mean, I hate to be like the negative guy in the room for some reason.
He goes, "Oh, I was a little underwhelmed about it. I hate to be negative." Like, in terms of Star Wars, like YouTubing and Star Wars podcast, a little underwhelming is like the nicest.
You're not earning those laser eyes.
Yeah, I guess I'll just maybe I was more than a little. I was underwhelmed. Well, take out the little. So there we go. But yeah, I guess that's my opening take for it. But I don't know what everyone else thought.
I'll join you in that like quick sense of like cynicism, AJ, insofar as when they announced it, my initial thought was not more Tales of the Jedi. Like I was a little bummed that it wasn't. I was really hoping for like some Balin shorts. I think he's one of the coolest characters we've gotten in a while. And then when it was like Morgan Elsbeth and Bariss Offee, I was like, I don't really care about Morgan Ellsbeth at all. And Bariss Offee, I was like, I almost honestly forgot who that was for a moment. I was like, oh, that's right. He betrays Ahsoka. Right. Yeah. And then my immediate follow-up was like, of course we're getting more characters connected to Ahsoka. But that said, like, I really enjoyed them. I think because I kind of went into them with this low expectation of like, all right, well, I don't really have any stakes with either one of these characters. I'm confident they'll tell us a good story. And I really enjoyed the stories. I don't think anything they've done has come close to the Dooku arc from Tales of the Jedi. Like that is just like that's Bendu tier. And like, these are like, they're really, really good. But yeah, I kind of shared that with you in the sense, AJ, of like the initial reaction was like, oh, interesting place to take it. But they're really solid stories. I really liked them. And I really love this format. And I knew like going into it, even if I don't like love the stories that they're choosing to tell, I'm going to watch the hell out of them because I want more of this. I want more of this type of content. Like these shorts are just so well put together and the animation is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Definitely no complaints on the visuals. They looked fantastic.
The dirt. Remember the dirt?
I love the dirt, dude.
Yeah, the dirt is unreal.
Unreal. I'm glad everybody noticed that because we were sitting there in the dark, and the first thing I said while we were watching was, "Whoa, look at the dirt!
Look at that dirt!"
It is true. It's true.
Yeah.
I think that go ahead.
No. You go, Jamie.
Okay. I think that one thing that's like important for Tales of the Empire is I really was left wanting more. And I enjoyed the stories that we got, and I also was a little bit underwhelmed, but that's because again we were like fresh off of like the Bad Batch, and I was like my like expectations for just like content was like through the roof, and then it was just like yay, just like in like the background, in which like I was excited for it, but it was just okay. Here's a couple stories, but a couple characters that are background characters, and we just gave them a little bit more, and I love that. It's literally kind of giving Glup Shadows a new life. And like I really want to like see that more. And like I think it's like a good like avenue for that. So like I know that like we'll rewatch them for the same reasons so that way they'll make more of it. And I really just wanted more than just like what it was of just the shorts. It doesn't have to be longer episodes, just like more of them.
Yeah, almost you have 3 episodes for each one, and I wonder why they just limit it to 2 characters, like 2 stories. Like, why not have 3 stories of 3, like 3, so you'd have 9 episodes? I don't know. I don't know. And like, I forget if it was Greg or Carl that said they wanted a Balin thing. I mean, that was one of my first thoughts. Like, I thought he would appear in the thing with Morgan Elsbeth at least. And
yeah, that's what I was not expecting, but I was kind of hoping we would get a Balin plot line at some point about how she met him or something like that, just to kind of tie the 2 together. But they went a different direction. They told a different story for Morgan than I was expecting, which is kind of funny because like I don't know what was I expecting. But yeah, I enjoyed them. I have to think about them more that's my thing, is that I haven't really sat down and thought about them a lot, and maybe that says something to the quality, where I haven't really had the want to sit down and think about them more. But I'm probably going to end up watching them again because my parents haven't seen them yet, and I always watch stuff with my parents, so I'll probably watch them again and probably get like some kind of fresher take from them. But I'm going to kind of just like feel through my feelings while we talk about them and see what I can come up with.
This is your time to think about them.
This is my time.
That says a lot for you, Matt. I feel that you like haven't thought about them, because usually when something hooks you in, like you're obsessed and you do think about it a lot. So I wonder, well, we had a lot going on. It was, this came out, we had Bad Batch, we had the Phantom Menace. Yeah. So like there was a lot.
I just ate gnocchi.
Yeah, that was a rough day.
We made Jabba slime pods.
We made Jabba slime pods. They did not agree with me.
If anyone's wondering, Matt's weakness is garlic. Just
my
so
weakness
you know.
is a lot of things. But if you want to kill me, it's garlic. Anybody trying to murder me, just make a garlicky dish and I'm done. So just so you know, just putting it out there.
Well, I'll just throw in on the general thoughts. I actually do think one of the things that both challenges me, but I enjoy about them, is they do end up being kind of a little puzzle box where you have to figure out, okay, what time frame, how much time is going between each one of these, where are we in the timeline, and kind of piecing together those little clues. And I think the both of them had pretty big time jumps in them this time. And so it made it that little extra puzzle feel to it. So in the Morgan Elsbeth ones, kind of the question of like, okay, so the New Republic's here, but how long are we before the Mando episode? Okay, the fire's happening, and is the fire still smoldering when it comes to the Mando episode that we get to it? And I think my canon brain really likes kind of pulling those pieces apart and trying to figure it out. And in the Bariss arc, I think a lot of the internet is trying to figure out how long happens between the second and the third, because it's kind of unclear and you could interpret it a few different ways. But that to me is what activates a part of my brain. So even if like I said to someone else, it's like, I don't think anybody had Morgan Elsbeth on their list. And I think very cynical part of me was like, okay, so you didn't do a good enough job writing her in Ahsoka, so you have to fill in who she is here. And that's unfair. I shouldn't say such on the internet because I'll get the laser eyes. But, I do think there's a little side of it that's like, oh, this is just servicing something bigger. But I think the Bariss / Ninth Sister one was the opposite, because it's I don't think that's leading to anything. I think that was just, I want to pull on this string of Barriss's story and tell you where she ended up. And I really liked that.
Yeah, I think the Bariss one spoke to me more than the Morgan Elsbeth one. And, it's funny you mentioned puzzle, because that's kind of also how I feel about like Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire. It's like, how are these shorts all thematically connected? Why are we telling Bariss and Morgan Elsbeth's stories side by side? It was the same thing with like, why are we telling Dooku and Ahsoka's story side by side? And, I have my thoughts on how those two stories connect, but I've been trying to kind of piece together how Morgan Elsbeth and Bariss kind of connect, other than the fact that they're, two people who are kind of, cleared out, wiped out. Their cultures were destroyed by the Empire, and they're kind of sucked in to destroy those cultures and sucked into the Empire to kind of become like a cog in that machine. And then one doesn't escape that machine and the other one kind of does, maybe. But again, I'm still trying to like figure out.
That's close. I mean, that's
how they connect.
Close. That sounds pretty good. I mean,
you know what it is? It's not that deep, Matt. You ready for this? So Morgan Elsbeth was in a coven of witches, and then in the Bariss Offee one, the Inquisitor literally says, "Time to join our coven." He literally says the word coven. That is the connection. There you go. It's not that deep. It's definitely deeper than that. But I thought that was hilarious in the rewatch tonight.
Bariss and Morgan both knew Ahsoka. That is right.
And
then honestly, that might be it too. Dave Filoni's just gotta. He's just gonna tell everybody's story. Anybody who looks at Ahsoka needs a story.
Greg, I know you'll know this because we grew up in essentially the same era, but do you all know this novel, the wonderful courtship of Princess Leia.
Oh yeah, with the
Love it, yeah.
not problematic at all with Han Solo and his gun of command. But that aside, it is the first story in the old Legends canon where we get Dathomir. It's the Night Sisters. Those were all introduced in this novel, and we learn in that novel that there are several different clans of Night Sisters that live on Dathomir. So I thought I loved that first Morgan episode. I thought the Morgan arc started strong, and by the end, I was really I was a lot less impressed. And I thought Bariss did the opposite. I thought Bariss started kind of okay, but ended really strong. But that first Morgan episode, I really loved, just because as someone like growing up, I loved Courtship of Princess Leia. It was one of my favorite books as a young fan. So seeing like the different clans of Night Sisters, and seeing that like this mountain clan uses, you know, magic in a different way, I thought was really, really exciting and fun. And I think, I could be wrong, but I feel like the three of you dabble in Battlefront 2, perhaps, or maybe at a time.
Oh yeah.
Remember the Kessel map though? You know, like there was something about the mountain clan when Morgan first walks out into the like little courtyard, I guess. I was just like, oh, this looks like the Kessel map on Battlefront 2.
I can see that.
I could see that too. Huh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting connection.
I'm really glad that you bring that up though, because like the three of us are not as like well versed in like the Legends lore as it stands. Like we all shop on Wikipedia a lot, but other than that, we're because
I know a lot about the courtship of Princess Leia, but I've never read the book. But I know all about the Night Sisters riding Rancors. All that cool stuff, all the different clans and stuff that they flesh out. And I really did, you know, I liked the Mountain Clan. I liked the different magic. I like all that.
It was blue instead of green.
Yeah, whitish blue. But that does mean that Merrin is just part of that group of Night Sisters. Where the hell was she?
So this is another like really big question. So we're deep in the Morgan Ellsbeth like analysis right now, but I think one of like the big questions is what defines a Night Sister versus what defines a Dathomirian versus what defines a person who lives on Dathomir who can use magic. There's a lot like in between here, and I think that what it's been like written so far on Wikipedia is that Morgan is just a human who's force sensitive and has access to the magic because her like clan leader was a Night Sister. And then when the mother dies, she kind of like loses that magic because she's out of that place and she's away from her family. And then she's also like in where the Mountain Clan is, and now she's like in their domain, so it's obviously just like a different thing. On the flip side of like Merrin from Fallen Order and Survivor, she's like straight up just a Night Sister. And like Dathomirian, and like she is it is just like in her. Also like Ventress, it is just in her. So it's interesting that like they have like these multiple different groups of Dathomirians on Dathomir, because you never see in Star Wars one planet where there's actually different groups of people doing their own thing. It's always rarely, just like one species and they all do the same thing. Naboo, so like
Naboo was
Naboo, Naboo is the other one.
And the Naboo. But you're right. You're right. We don't get a lot of planets with multiple cultures to explore like Dathomir. There's a short story that I think Diana Lee Inosanto mentioned in an interview recently. There's a short story in one of the From a Certain Point of View books. I think it was in From a Certain Point of View. It might have been from another short story collection.
Is it the Clone Wars From a Certain Point of View?
The Clone Wars.
It might have been.
Yeah, and it's about like the last Night Sister.
Well, it's about like a young like orphan girl who's taken into the Coven. And I think it's kind of like not confirmed by her, but like hinted at the fact that could be Morgan Elsbeth, especially because she's got a last name. Nobody else has a last name. She's got two names. Everybody else got one name. So that's got to be something. We're the other Elsbeths. I don't know.
She has that's not a very like Night Sistery name. Like think about it. Like
Morgan is a very witchy name. That harkens as far back as Arthurian legend. You know, Morgan Le Fay is the original witch, one of the original witches in Morgana and all that. So Morgan is a very witchy name. I don't know where you got Elsbeth though.
Elspeth sounds like a witch's name too, though, right?
I just got to push up my glasses and say, yes, that is a short story in the Clone Wars Light and Dark. And remember, that's the one with his wife as well, right? So Ian Convery wrote that short story. So kind of tying into if Dave is thinking about, he's chatting over, they're having their gnocchi and he's sharing stories, and she's like, oh, I could write that one. So
he's pretending
totally
his stomach's not blowing up as he's writing.
He's having like an attack from garlic, and she's like, "Oh, this is good stuff."
She's like, "Oh, I could use this."
Yeah.
It was really great. That first episode was really strong, though. I thought, I like.
It was definitely, in my opinion, the strongest
of all 9.
No, of the Morgan.
Of the Morgans.
For sure.
I agree. Like
crazy because like the New Republic, we got the New Republic in Clone Wars style, and I'm not like losing my mind.
Yeah,
about
but
that.
It was very very minimal. Yeah,
it was Corvus. It was very. Here we are.
It's got to be Corvus.
Drab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What stunned me was, I mean,
don't forget the huge Phantom Menace fan service, right? Where we get Grievous using Wipe Them Out, all of them. That hit hard this week too.
I did the Leo DiCaprio point at the TV.
Yeah.
I thought what I appreciated with the first episode of Morgan as well is it had a very Star Wars thematic beginning with that of tragedy, right? Like, this is a character, she is the central character of that story, and like so many of our heroes in Star Wars, or at least protagonists, her story begins in flames. It begins in a sense of tragedy. It's her watching her sense of self, her entire community being wiped out. And I thought it was really Kevin Kiner continues to amaze me, and I can't wait for us to get the score for Tales of the Empire. But the music that's being played during kind of the massacre at the beginning is very reminiscent of the track Anakin's Dark Deeds from Revenge of the Sith. I mean, it's that musical language of tragedy, telling us again, like what it sounds like to lose everything in Star Wars. Like, Kevin Kiner really leans into that. I don't mean to say just Kevin. I know that it's a community of Kiners now. But
a coven of Kiners, if you will.
Coven of Kiners.
Literally.
But it's funny, you mentioned that a lot of characters' Star Wars stories start in flames and tragedy. And when you look at the titles of the 3 Morgan stories, fear, anger, and hate, obviously that is the path to the dark side that Yoda lays out in the Phantom Menace. So I suppose the Morgan stories are kind of showing us what happens when you just feed into those emotions and you let your Star Wars story be one of tragedy instead of over triumph. Obviously Anakin did that too, and unfortunately, unlike Anakin, Morgan really doesn't get any redemption. She just kind of dies, serving Thrawn as like a pawn, Thrawn's pawn.
That being said, though,
that's true, but
she
does get what she wants, though, right? Like,
yeah.
So
true.
Let's move on to the next
her
episode.
whole path is to reunite. Yeah. Let's take it in time. You're right.
But will she get what she wants?
You're good. So, okay. We'll move on to the next episode, right? And so the next one is set comfortably during Imperial time, and Morgan Ellsbeth is suddenly giving her like Shark Tank presentation to all like the Imperials of the TIE Defender. And so like,
that which is wild. Like,
Matt, you okay?
I just want to talk about General Istain. They will tell you I was losing my mind.
You are.
The guy's name is General Istain. Really? That's so good. That's so funny. That is just like the greatest Imperial name of all time. I loved it. General Istain.
All she wants to do is to make her own way within the Empire, and doesn't really like nothing else like matters, and she wants obviously like to get some sort of her power back as well, and the Empire's the only way to do that. And she has such a brain on her, and I love how like this like set that like up. And then I love how we also got the reveal that Palion was there just being a talent scout like during this meeting. Like, it's just so silly to like think about. She's giving her pitch and he's just there being like, I like what you did.
That was pretty good.
What do you really want to do? Like, that was very cool.
I like the cut of your jib, kid. Come with me.
But how
you
wild!
Really know your way around a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
No kidding.
What could you do for the company? Like,
how wild was it that like Morgan came up with the TIE Defender project?
Morgan
like,
invented the TIE Defender. Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, why is that? That threw me off a lot, like big time. But I don't know. That was an odd choice.
I don't really care either way.
No,
it's just like one of those random things where it's like, oh, okay, cool.
It was really random.
Well, I think something that stood out to me in that second episode though is with her in that community on Corvus when she comes back, and I love your analogy, Jamie, of the Shark Tank idea not being accepted. Well, and then that is he a Moff there that basically says he's going to steal the idea, which I immediately thought of. We stand here amidst Morgan's achievements, not yours.
That's his name.
But,
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, it's all right.
I don't remember his rank. I thought it was general, but I'm not. I could be wrong.
He just wants the resources. He literally is like, your project, whatever, it's too expensive. We just want all like the resources on your planet. So just give us those.
Unbelievable.
That's so perfect Imperial of we just want to take all of your stuff. We don't care about your ideas. Just give us all your stuff. That's the Empire. But then on the flip side, we have Thrawn, who's like, actually, I want your ideas. Come work for me. And I'll take all your stuff. And so it's cool to see it flips both ways there.
Yeah. But the people there don't accept her, right? And I think that's kind of the heart of that episode for her in her journey is, these aren't my people. I don't belong here, right? So again, she's kind of continuing that quest, and she shares with Thrawn what she's actually after is revenge, which I'm curious what y'all think. Like, what does she want revenge on? Grievous is dead. The Separatists have lost. But I think it's important that the people of Corvus is not where she belongs. And, like y'all pointed out, it's her journey does kind of come to an end there in Ahsoka successfully, because even when her last lines to Thrawn, when he says, long live the Empire. And she kind of whispers though, or for Dathomir, right? Like, so for her, it's always been about Dathomir, not about the Empire.
Oh, wait, Matt? Is Matt still here?
Yeah, Matt cloned himself for a second.
There I am. That was weird.
What just happened?
Wait,
no, I'm sorry to derail you.
Now there's two of them. All right. No, that was. I'm sorry. I was thrown off there myself.
I'm sorry.
Where'd we leave off?
Well, I will just say, to me, that sets up that Morgan and Thrawn are quite parallel, right? Because if you've read the first of the canon Thrawn books, he is here to find the salvation for the Chiss, right? He's not really a long live the Empire guy, as we understood him at this point in the timeline. He just wants to find his way to help his people. So I think that kind of coming together they have at the end of that episode, they are exactly alike. They are more committed to their people and where they actually belong than these people who won't allow them into the club, who will always look at them as lesser. And that just really, to me, is kind of the heart of for what it unlocked for me why she's so devoted to him in Ahsoka. It's like, oh, okay, they are the same person. They have different communities they were a part of, but they're on this path.
Yeah, in my notes, I have a bunch of funny things written about Thrawn. But I mean, like, one of like the biggest things I have written down was like Palion literally like greets her saying, "Forgive the theatrics," and then Thrawn just like appears, and it's like, okay.
With good old Rook.
Thrawn's like,
but like Rook is the theatrics. He's like this like dance audition, right? That Morgan has to like deal with, and Palion's like, okay, you passed, you got the job, and then Thrawn's like, okay, actually, you really got the job. But at the end of the day, Thrawn recruited Morgan Ellsbeth for her, not necessarily for her resources. And so because he saw, I guess, kind of himself, as you're saying, in which the same background of trying to help their people in order to get what they want. It's not about the Empire.
He's a man of culture.
He's playing the long game, and he always has been playing the long game. Like, Palpatine's like playing his long game, and Thrawn is also just playing his long game. And so it's interesting to actually see it like develop a little bit more. While we were just like doing our like rewatch tonight, I really wish that they did like Thrawn for Tales of the Empire. But like I feel like they wouldn't want to touch it because of the books, because there is so much content, and they'd be scared to like, put it on screen, and then suddenly it's like, oh god, here we go.
But
no, it hasn't.
You're right.
But,
you're right.
Shoving it into Tales of the Empire in 3 shorts, shoving Thrawn's story into 3 shorts.
Oh my god, there'd be riots. There'd be riots in the street.
Can't really
we
do
wouldn't
that.
Be able to handle it.
So
yeah.
Yeah. I wish he was in it more.
You're
but
just pitching a full Thrawn show, and I think that's the best idea. So Lucas,
yeah, why not? But yeah, I loved all of that happening. So we'll move on quickly to the New Republic episode, which
that
was
poor astromech droid.
Path of Hate.
Why'd you remind me?
So I think that this episode must have happened maybe like days before the Mandalorian episode,
if
like,
even.
Yeah, I mean, must, because Ahsoka's probably there for like a few days, and then Din shows up. So, God, you know what? Sorry, not to derail, guys, but you know what I realized like the other day, because I've been talking with one of my close friends because she decided to start watching Star Wars for the first time. So I've been like writing like a timeline of events. Star Wars claims that everything from The Mandalorian happens during 9 ABY. Everything.
Don't listen to that.
Doesn't make any sense. I got so pissed off yesterday trying to like put this together, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't want to read this.
In Mando season 3, Grief Karga says it's been cycles since they met. That's years. So whoever's making these timelines needs to get their butt in gear. Well, remember, it hasn't been 1 year.
Do you remember Jon Favreau said like 0 to 4 years or whatever?
I forget what he said.
Yeah,
0 to 2 years. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? What's happening? My rule of thumb is that each show is a year. Between each season,
I like that.
Is a year. And I would say Ahsoka and Mando season 3 are the same year. So I think we're around in like 12 ABY, I would say.
So I guess my thing is I have one gripe. Morgan Elsbeth's time during the Empire was just like 1 episode.
I know.
Why?
And she lasted all the way.
Why was she Tales of the Empire? That's the question. Why was she Tales of the Empire?
I guess to show the backstory of people who end up as Imperials, as cogs in the machine.
But she like wasn't. She worked for Thrawn. I wouldn't necessarily consider her like an Imperial.
Well, she certainly, I don't know how much she cared about Corvus, but she clearly, sacrificed like her whole planet for the Empire. Like at least that, right? Like,
I guess
Corvus's resources are expended and her people hate her, but I don't know how much of that was going on before. So
I wish they told us how she became the Magistrate of Corvus.
It's a good question.
Yeah, or how she got a really cool Beskar spear. I want to know that one.
The Beskar spear.
He had it.
I got a lot of wishes.
Or how she knows Balin's skull.
Yeah. So something whenever I watch new Star Wars, it's in my brain now, thanks to Greg and other Greg on Rebel Base Card, to just think of questions, because that's the whole kind of premise of their show, which I love. So Morgan mentions, though, in that 3rd episode that she's had a vision. And that's what she's following her destiny via that vision. Of course, we're not told what the vision is. So I'm just curious what y'all might think that vision is. And obviously she's following a vision through in Ahsoka as well. Do you think it's the same vision? Is this connected? Is this something to do with the Night Sisters in Peridia?
That's what I think it was. I think that's
something like that.
I think that's what she's implying, is that that the Night Sister forces have some kind of destiny planned for her, and she sees it. And she's kind of following through with it. I think that's probably what they're implying with that, which is a really cool connection, mind you, considering she talks about how the Night Sisters on Peridia have been talking to her, have been reaching out to her in some capacity. I don't know how long. I don't know if she ever said how long, but you're right.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
When Ahsoka was going on, I remember we were kind of like, how is she in communication with Thrawn? And obviously it was probably through the Night Sisters talking to her from the other galaxy. So I mean, that is kind of cool. So I guess that is probably where that vision stems from.
Although she doesn't have the magic anymore.
Right.
I agree. But as we said in the beginning, I believe like an element of her, she is like a touch Force sensitive. And like, plus if the Night Sisters wanted to, they could definitely just be like,
that's true.
Let me just
they took Savage Opress and they made him like the biggest, buffest Hercules with friggin' Force powers you ever saw.
Yeah.
So whatever, do whatever.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I know you wanted to bring up I don't think you brought it up yet, about
I think I pretty much did.
Her losing her
losing the face markings. I think that goes back to, again, she's just a semi-Force sensitive or fully Force sensitive human under the influence of the Night Sister magic. And so when she wakes up after her mother died and she's in like a new area where there's other magic, the markings just fade because that's it. And so like I feel like she still like has like some slight connection to the Force, possibly, but not that much. Because she doesn't have the magic yet.
I've always sort of seen the magic and the Force as like the same thing, sort of. So
they're definitely two aspects of the Force.
Of the
any kind of magical thing you see in the galaxy is the Force in some way,
in some capacity. Well, yeah,
but
there's the
obviously, like,
Jedi arts. There's the
you would not catch a Jedi using Night Sister magic, and vice versa.
Right.
You know, obviously, what's his name taught Asajj Ventress how to use the Force as the Jedi do instead of magic. So it could probably translate between the two.
What if Marin taught Cal how to do the Night Sister magic for the next video game?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Or
she
taught him
everything.
the flashing thing, you know, the transport thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There
Anything
we go.
can happen. Why not? Let's move on to Bariss Offee.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Unless you guys have anything else burning about Morgan Ellsbeth.
Speaking of burning,
burning,
the Jedi Temple.
Oh, yeah.
That's the opening shot, right?
Yeah,
it is. Like she feels it happen and she wakes up, and I think that's just like a really cool detail. If she was just sleeping and she felt Order 66 happening, felt all that pain, and I think that's like super important for her character, because the last time that we saw her in the Clone Wars, she was enraged. She was just mad at the Jedi. Everything about it, she was like, this is all wrong. But like she's like had about, I'd say, like a year just to sit there and think about it, and weirdly sitting in a cell for a year, she's grown up a little bit along the way, which is like nice to see. Yeah,
she seemed a lot more chill, and I don't know, I mean, at the end of Clone Wars, she had some great points about, you know, the Republic and the Jedi probably being a bit flawed, because that sort of happened. She made some valid points.
Yeah.
But she was pretty much like evil, right? We would all agree she was kind of like on the evil side of things.
Killing people.
Killing people
is
wanting to blow things
evil.
up. So she didn't seem
AJ,
that evil.
I think I was following you down 93 the other day. You have the bumper sticker that says #Bariss was right. That's you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
yeah, you caught me.
Anytime you're in a room with him alone and it's silent for more than 2 seconds, till you know, Bariss had some points.
Bringing it up at Thanksgiving dinner.
I have some literature.
So, but she seemed totally chill in this. Like, she didn't seem like that evil person we saw. But I think Jamie brings up a good point. She's been in,
because she's had a year to just cook. What was she gonna do? She was either gonna like get madder, or she was actually gonna sit there and think about what she did and like what's actually going on. And like what we like see in like the first episode as well. She's the only one out of like the 3 little ex-Jedi prospects there who like is chill, and she sits there and she meditates actually. And the other ones are like pacing around and being all like anxious and whatnot. And she's the only one that's just like, oh, well, we're here, so let me just meditate. And again, that goes back to she's had a year to think about what she did and what's actually right or wrong. Like, she thought the Jedi were wrong, and now she's given this new opportunity of the other side, the not Jedi, and then she quickly learns, this is a little bit extreme. This probably also isn't the right way to go.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Do you think she ever reconsidered her position on the Jedi? Or is it a kind of like, the Jedi were wrong, but this is also not the way? I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
I don't think she ever. But again, I don't know, because she connects with the Jedi that she fights on the planet. I don't know if they ever name the planet, but she connects to the Jedi on like an emotional level. They talk about being scared alone and all that. In the context of being a Jedi, and she connects to that. So it's complicated. I actually, I like the emotional complexity of Barriss's arc, and it, like I said, this as well definitely did not go the way a lot of people were expecting, and I liked that.
Yeah,
which is funny because villain gets redeemed. That's like the most. That's you see that coming a mile away in Star Wars. Yet they still found a way to surprise me. With that take.
Angel brings this up, and Matt, we talked about this when we were watching it. But like talking about the Jedi that didn't agree with the Jedi ways anymore, and they were so easygoing about joining the Inquisitorius, and you were saying Rise of the Red Blade really highlights that. And I
Rise
still
of
have
the
not
Red
finished
Blade does. Oh my god! Anybody who is even remotely interested in any of the Bariss stuff in this Tales of the Empire needs to read Rise of the Red Blade. It is one of my favorite new canon Star Wars books. Blew me away last year. Was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, but I could not put that book down. And by put that book down, I mean turn it off because I listened to it. But seriously good stuff. Like
Delilah
seriously
Dawson, right?
awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Delilah Dawson tells you exactly what the Jedi who fall to the Inquisitorius are thinking. Like lays out the pathway to it. Like Iskat Akaris, who is the main character and becomes the 13th sister, is very Anakin. And I think reading the book, you get a great like viewpoint of how Anakin sees the Jedi as well. So kind of like, it's just it has a lot of synergy. It connects a lot of things thematically without connecting them, actually continuity wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic book. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too, Matt, because when they head to the planet with the Inquisitor hangout base, which obviously was first featured in Kenobi. I can't remember the name.
Ner.
Oh,
Nerd.
oh, just drop the D apparently.
Featured in Fallen Order.
Yep. Fallen
Yeah,
Order.
Fallen
Order.
Kenobi.
Yeah, Fallen
There's
Order.
my finger on my glasses right there.
Nerd.
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 So,
Forget. Yeah.
but what I appreciated though is the fact that it's under construction. This is not long after Order 66 has happened. And to Matt's point, like I think one of my favorite little moments in Rise of the Red Blade is that moment when do you pronounce it Iskar? Is that the main character's name?
I say Iskat.
Okay. Oh,
It's cut.
yeah. But when she has that like bump in with Palpatine and he kind of takes an interest in her, it's just a reminder again of how he's always been playing the long game. Like it seems like this place has already started construction probably during the time of the Republic.
Yeah.
And then
because all the underwater stuff is already finished.
yeah.
They're only working on the top.
Right. So it's just like evidence again of like Palpatine's long planning, and then the Grand Inquisitor just becoming Heath Ledger's Joker by throwing one pool cube down and being like, "We have a limited team here."
Yeah,
It's
right.
fast. You know? So,
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I wanted to bring it up because that scene in The Dark Knight is like my favorite scene that I probably should never quote about anything because it's like, okay, we only have one spot on the team. We're going to have tryouts. And then it's just, that's all I could think of with the Inquisitor as well. And like, it was a perfect moment. And like, I know that they weren't referencing The Dark Knight in that moment, but like, you got to draw the similarities there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something
definitely.
cool. I love that comparison. I love that you guys both thought of that. Because Jamie did say that as we were watching it. But something I noticed on our rewatch, the first time Bariss is with the Grand Inquisitor, she draws, he gives her the blade and they're kind of she's taking swipes at him and he's just dodging it. That is what Bariss does in the final episode against Lynn. Like she's dodging and just I thought that was a really cool parallel that they did there.
It's
That
like
blew
the
me
same
away.
moves too, like the exact same kind of
was.
animation that they did.
And something else we might have seen after Phantom Menace featured something else very like that in the Acolyte preview as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or remember when Ezra was like, "I don't need a weapon. The Force is my ally," and then immediately the next episode he builds one. Oh, whoops. That's one of my only sins from the Ahsoka episode. I loved watching him be just like a Force user without a weapon, and then immediately builds one in the next episode. It's like, come on.
I think we're gonna get more of that in the Acolyte. I think we're gonna see a lot of like martial arts inspired Force moves in the Acolyte. So
nice move.
Maybe they were just priming us for that.
Qui-Gon says Maul was well trained in the Jedi arts.
I was telling AJ about this while we were watching the movie. George, stop it! Stop saying the Jedi. Stop saying Jedi arts. It's not the Jedi arts. He's
Attack of the Clones too, right?
He says Dooku says it in Attack of the Clones. I think it was Dooku.
And then he uses Force lightning.
And then Grievous. Yeah, he literally says like, "Oh, I'm I've very good in the Jedi arts, lightning." And then Grievous is like, "Dooku trained me in the Jedi arts." Like, when did he train you there? When did he trained you to do that?
One episode of Dooku just spinning his wrists as fast as he can.
That's it.
Yeah.
Terrace Kasi
Grievous was our big jerk in this, by the way. Forgot to mention that. laughing,
Yeah,
his ass
laughing
off
at
the whole
everybody.
Run,
time.
run.
Oh, no.
But yeah, in the Bariss episodes, I love them. Matt, did you notice this? Pretty much every character in the first episode was an alien.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good point.
Well, they're all near human species, but they were all,
But they're all
aliens.
aliens.
None of them were just like
We
straight
don't
up
see a
humans,
human.
except like Darth Vader at the end. But
Well,
Yeah, he's more machine than
machine
man.
now than man.
at that point, I love how that's also like, who knows how long after this is. So like, this is one of Vader's like first like tasks is to go like check out this like new squad like immediately.
Yeah. Who are these jokers? What are you calling me out of my back to tank for?
So
Very busy.
I think one other interesting bit as well is they're not in like this arc as well. Lynn, so fourth sister who showed up in Kenobi at first.
Yeah.
We find out her name was Lynn. The first thing she says to Bariss is that's not my name anymore. But she doesn't give her like
Never
the
says the
title
fourth
fourth
sister.
sister.
Bugged the hell out of me.
When Bariss like proves her like worth and like she gives her the helmet, she says welcome sister, but that's it. They never use like the numbered like sister or brother like terms yet. And I find that so interesting because we get 4 Inquisitors at the end of this. We get Lynn, Bariss, Birdface Man from Tales of the Jedi, and Marok from Ahsoka, actual Marok, the actual fart in the wind. And so
both of them were
but
farts
as
in
a
the wind.
person,
Beak Man turns into a fart too when he dies.
Exactly.
Yeah, they both do. Yeah.
So like, who are those guys? It's funny that they were both interested there, but we know that they're not like first brother or second brother because like we have second sister in Jedi Survivor and she's not there yet. And then Bariss wouldn't be third sister, and because Lynn was there before. It's complicated.
It is
so,
complicated.
Like, when did they start doing the number system?
And
Sometime after this.
Lynn seemed very like in charge of things almost, but like
I know
in Kenobi, she's not. She's very quiet.
She doesn't have any word like lines. I don't think she has a single line in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Which
we don't know anything about her.
That's one of the cool things about these like animated, shorts is that they bring these characters who are just in the background to the forefront. And I loved that we got to learn more about her, or at least have like a personality to assign to her. That was cool.
Yeah.
It was a lot of her arc in the end, which I totally didn't expect because I was just expecting Bariss, and I think Jay Snip's cosplay on Instagram has an amazing Lynn. Well, fourth sister, and she was so excited when they showed her in the trailer. And so when I'm watching these, I'm just thinking like, man, your costume paid off big time. That you worked so hard on it, and she's now so prominent.
It's always fun. When
when the show catches up with you.
When the Club Shadow actually shows up again, it's always fun. So
yeah.
I would tie that back to Matt's initial question of like, I think it was you, Matt. Like, what is the thematic tie between these? And I think looking at Morgan, Bariss, and I'm throwing Lynn into the mix. I think these are 3 characters of principle, right? And we may not agree with their principles, but they have strong principles, and the show is meant to show you what happens to people like that in an oppressive system like the Empire. Right?
That's fantastic.
And some fall like Morgan, and some rise like Bariss. When somebody rises, they can bring along Lynn with them, and I thought that was just such a great final beat in the 3rd episode.
That's good. Morgan falls, Bariss rises, and then we have the fourth sister somewhere in the middle. We don't know. She regrets her actions. Does she repent?
She'll repent. I think it was there.
She's on her way.
Taking Bariss out of the cave. Getting out of the cave in general is a sign.
And I would say like that shot they give us of her lightsaber falling in the snow as she's carrying Bariss out is that's Star Wars visual language of like she's moved on. And I think in the 2nd episode, when Bariss makes the decision to step away from this new dangerous coven, that scene of her tossing her helmet off, right? Like I love that at the end of the 1st episode, she gets to put that helmet on and become anonymous in a way, right? Like, and think of that with Vader, right? Who, when people put masks on it, it allows you to become something terrible if you so choose. It allows you to escape into anonymity. So at the end of that 2nd episode, when Bariss chooses to toss the helmet over the side of the cliff. I mean, that's so reminiscent of Kylo / Ben, tossing the saber on the moon of Endor there. It's like there's so much Star Wars visual language that we continue to get, and then we get to revisit. Yeah. So I love that we got that with Bariss as well, just kind of tossing the helmet, tossing this thing that like allows her to hide in her darkness, and again choosing to stand there in the light. And
fantastic.
The I'm with you, Matt, in the sense of like I was really surprised where Barriss's story went. Like this was not what I was expecting, and I think like as that episode ends and she chooses, again, this is a obviously episode 9 reference of choosing to heal that Jedi, and I love how both the second and third episode end very ambiguously. Like, does that Jedi fully survive? We don't know. Does Bariss see them again? Lynn, do they live long and prosper? Whoops. We don't know.
Franchise.
But I did see, like, Alex from Star Wars Explained posted a really great little video the other day, and by the way, awesome that y'all were with them not too long ago. That was a lot of fun. Cool to see. By the way,
fun time.
Great two people.
But he made this really cool point though about because I texted Greg this after I finished watching it. I was really thrown, like, why does Bariss look so much older? And at first I didn't realize, like, I was like, oh, maybe this is after the events of the Empire, right? Like she's become this kind of sage in the woods. I really like that motif as well. I love that it answers the question of who is a Jedi without the Jedi Order. Like, and I love that it had a kind of different answer, but she's a healer, which is also a really cool homage to the old Clone Wars Legends books about Medstar, right? Yeah, like Barriss is the healer. But Alex points out that for him, he thinks the reason she looks older is because she keeps using her life force to heal people, so it's just aging her. And I was like, that's brilliant. Typical from Star Wars.
Yeah. And that would be a fantastic way to repent for your sins, to give part of your life to people who were hurt by your actions or could have been hurt by your actions.
And that's a question Star Wars fans have been really wanting an answer to, Matt, right? Like ever since Rise of Skywalker, people really wanted to see Ben survive.
Yeah.
And that implication then of, well, how does one repent, right? Mm-hmm. In Vader, we never really get the opportunity, and then, we kind of could have had that opportunity with Ben. They choose not to. But that's a great point, Matt, that like we do get to see Bariss Offee repent. We get to see what it looks like on the other side of horrible decisions that we choose to make.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that because like we get her. She makes her decision to say to bomb the Jedi Temple and kill all those people. And the Jedi are awful. And then she's put away in jail. And then she's given that opportunity to change things and do it a different way. And she also realizes that's not the way to go. And then I love how we do get she finds her own way along the way of figuring out what's going to work for her to fully like redeem herself, kind of. Or at least just be more in tune with the Force for what she can handle. And I just love all of this. This is a really good analysis.
So as it turns out, I actually really liked Tales of the Empire.
Come around.
I especially like the Bariss arc. I thought that was really powerful, and I loved that she ended up as the healer, and everything Carl just said as the old trope there of some crazy witch healer in the woods or something.
I remember. Go ahead.
No, I was just kind of gonna repeat what I said, but you go ahead.
I love how we also got like a cave scene.
Love caves.
Yeah.
Love a good cave.
Love caves of
caves is symbolism. It's literal hero's journey. Literally the hero's journey. Like
we had like the mole man escorting the family through the cave. Leading
I am
the
not
family
kidding.
through.
I am not kidding.
And then Bariss as well. But yes, Matt, go ahead about Mole Man.
We're watching Tales of the Empire, and as soon as this Mole Man pops out, that's all we could talk about the rest of the episode. I'm not even kidding. It was literally like Mole Man showed up, and then we were like, look at this guy, Mole Man. And then AJ would be like, whoa, Mole Man. And then Jamie was like, I love Mole Man.
Mole Man looked like the beast thing that was with them. And then
he
there
looked
was
like every other animal on that planet.
Yeah.
It's like they all had the same look. They all like
They all have the same face.
Evolved
What does
from the
Vaz Kanata say?
This-
Like, see this eyes and
The
same people.
This
You
is
got the
why
mole cow, you got the mole man, you got the mole chipmunk.
this is why we couldn't get the deep analysis of like the themes of
They
it because
distracted us with a
oh
glop.
man,
They
He
distracted
doesn't
us.
get- Does he get a name? I don't think so,
I
right?
don't think he had a
does.
name.
Okay.
Just Mole Man.
Keep an eye
Mole
out.
And is he
who's the
different than
best?
the Zach Braff mole man from
Yes.
Kenobi?
Yes.
Yes, he
Completely
was.
different.
He was different
species?
from Freck.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
love Freck.
Okay.
We don't talk
This,
about
so that,
Shrek.
I
that's why I
love
said this
Freck.
is good mole man.
Good mole man. And then we have bad Freck mole man.
Bad.
Can I posit another quick question to y'all? Because would love to get your answers. There's two things referenced in that final episode. There's the Traveler, which is who pointed that family towards the healer, which is obviously Bariss. So who is the Traveler, and then who does Bariss send them off to? What do y'all think?
That is a good question.
So I'm assuming that this family like lived on this planet, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe?
Yeah.
They're on a Batman Begins journey, right? Like heading to a snowy mountaintop.
okay,
Yeah.
true. Back to the
For a
Batman
flower.
references
Yeah.
tonight. I like it. I don't know who the Traveler could be, but I feel like the person that they're sending them to is definitely affiliated with the Path.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way that this is, it's still pre-OT because like Lynn is like still operating as an Inquisitor. So the Path, someone's out there doing the business. There you go.
Quinlan
Yeah.
Voss, Saj Ventress.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yes, that's. I mean,
Ahsoka.
when I remember, yeah, you said Ahsoka when she said I have somebody go to her, and I remember you AJ was like Ahsoka, and I was like, oh, it's probably going to be like Ahsoka. In my brain, I was thinking that not just because this is written by Dave Filoni, but it would kind of be cool if Bariss and Ahsoka got in touch at some point, and Bariss either apologized or did something, started sending Force sensitives who she healed to Ahsoka to like integrate into the Path or something. I don't know. I don't know if it's Ahsoka though. That's a tough question. Definitely somebody affiliated with the Path. I'm gonna say that woman that freaks out after what's his name dies in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who's the guy in the snow speeder that gets blown up as they're flying away?
Wade.
Oh, Wade.
Wait.
Wade.
Yeah, Wade's the guy.
Wade.
Poor
Yeah,
Wade.
the woman who is really sad about that. I'm gonna say it's her.
So this
I
has
like
to be after Kenobi, right? That's what I was trying to think about. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Christina Ariel's character, whose name I'm forgetting. But let's just yeah, she's now the lieutenant of the Path, and they're gonna send her to her.
I like that.
That's
Canon. That's it.
He is his eye is on canon, so it makes sense that like
There you go.
Yeah, you're right.
make that
You're
distinction.
absolutely
So-
right.
Well, that was Tales of the Empire.
Yeah, it was still
As
the
soon as
Empire.
it came, it was gone. But I mean, what do you guys think? Like, what would you want to see? I know we probably all want to see more things like this. We like the short form, and it's really fun. But what else would you want to see? Like, would you want to see them do? You've seen all like the memes out there: Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of the Clones, Tales of whoever. Like,
Tales
what would
of
you
the
want to see
Clones.
next?
I gotta go Tales of the New Republic.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
we
thinking
gotta we gotta fill in the Return of the Jedi to Mando time slot a little bit that era. I was a huge fan of Tales from the Cantina and Tales of the Bounty Hunters, but I feel like the Certain Point of View books have kind of filled that in a lot. And
Yeah.
you can tell kind of funny stories about everybody's favorite Glub Shittos, but it would be hard to do so in kind of a meaningful anthology film, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe Bounty Hunters being an exception to that, but
True. There's always room for more bounty hunters in Star Wars.
I agree. They could also just like include like specific bounty hunters. Like if they did that, they would probably do like Cad Bane since he's like been like across like both eras. And I don't know. Maybe they could do like Rook just to like toss him in there.
We
Why
can
not?
finally
Even
see
though-
the
Why
Cad
not?
Bane Boba Fett showdown that we've been waiting
Please.
for.
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
been dying for that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like Millie's suggestion, Tales of the Resistance. I'm
no.
always a big Resistance fan. The Cold War is a super looked over part of Star Wars lore that I really want fleshed out more. Obviously, Tales of the Resistance is kind of just the show Resistance, but
Yeah, true.
I mean, there's other stuff. There's other stuff.
We get some Vi Maraudie.
Yes,
That'd be
dude.
cool.
Vi Maraudie
That would be
or
fun.
any of the characters from Bloodline. I've been
Cardinal.
dying for like a Joff Sea Striker story, for crying out loud.
Really good.
Absolutely.
Something like that. Yeah, there's a million possibilities they could go. Or I want Tales of the Jedi season 2.
With
That's
Balin.
what I want. With Balin, please. General Balin Skull.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
I just want a new animated series. Period.
Well, that's
because like
We'll
we
get
can
one.
like talk all we want about like the next like shorts that they're gonna do, but I want like a new animated series. Like they're definitely working on something. Just what are they working on? I want to know.
Have an animated
wanna know what
series
they're
in the
working
back
on.
pocket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Dave Filoni had some new quotes this week in some of the junkets, where he talked about the Tales being where he trains his like apprentices in how to show run and things like that. And you don't just keep training people for no reason. Like you have to then have them develop a show and move on. So I think I would suspect maybe by the end of the summer we get a hint of what the next show is my best guess.
And Brad Rao or Jennifer Corbett teased us about Ventress. So
true.
They said something. They said we're gonna find out something. So
So I'm waiting on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Shall we?
But
sorry,
yeah.
what were we gonna say, Jamie?
No, I was gonna say, but to transition to actual content that's coming out later this year, there's a couple things to talk about really quickly. First of all, actually, I want to talk about the surprise Lego drop. There's gonna be a Lego series this fall.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
The biggest reveal was not Darth Jar Jar. Actually, the biggest reveal was Jedi Bob. Like
he's back.
Jedi Bob.
That is
Moynihan.
the biggest reveal, and it's voiced by Bobby Moynihan.
That's
like,
so good.
I'm so excited for him to make a Star Wars return as
Should I
Jedi Bob.
Should I grab my Lego box?
Yes, grab the box, show it off. Come on,
boy.
Mr. Lego, get the box.
Mr. Lego.
I don't actually
so-
know where Jedi Bob is.
So, like, history of this box. AJ is about to like talk about it further, but this is the box that he has had since like 2002. And the backstory of it is he actually sold the box to someone else a couple years ago, and then literally this week he bought it back from the guy, and then they announced this series coming out this week or coming out this fall.
So AJ can see things before they happen. Get it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got special
AJ
powers.
Greg just said that you can see things before they happen since you bought the box back this week.
That's true. I had no idea that was coming. So
No, and so we're super excited for it. And super excited to see Ahmed Best as Jar Jar again. That'll be hilarious. And
Jar Jar.
Who's the other big voice? Oh, Gaten Matarazaro, who's in Stranger Things. He's also just gonna be like the kid in it. That's gonna be awesome. So yeah, that's all I got about Lego.
It's great.
yeah, it'll be a fun little thing. It's always Lego Star Wars stuff's always fun. But we can talk about the Acolyte.
I love that there's no stakes to it. Like Freemakers was a riot, and like I loved watching it with my kids, and it's fun to not have the burden of everything we were just talking about of how does it connect to this and that. It's like and this sounds like this is really going to be a total kind of what if type of experience.
That's what
great experience.
I really haven't wanted a Star Wars what if because I think it would bring out all the wrong people and the wrong things possibly. But I think to do it in Lego form like fixes all of that, for lack of a better term. But like it'll just be a fun little throwaway thing that's just fun to enjoy whenever it comes out. And yeah, looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to the Acolyte, which comes out in just a few weeks at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Under a month.
Oh man,
in June.
I am so excited for the Acolyte. It's like all I think about. Like one of the two things I'm always thinking about right now.
We were driving around the other day, and you're like, oh, I can't stop thinking about the Acolyte. And then you were like talking to yourself. You're like, oh, I got to settle down though. But, like, why do you have to settle down? Just because it's like consuming you, or?
Yeah, like I gotta chill. Like I talking about the Acolyte too much. And I remember you guys were yelling at me because Bad Batch was like just ending. Or like the peak of Bad Batch was happening, and I'm sitting there like, oh, the Acolyte. Oh, can't wait for the Acolyte. Acolyte this, Acolyte that. And you guys are like, Bad Batch, focus, man.
I've been so pissed at Matt for like the entire Bad Batch season 3 because his brain has been on Acolyte, and I'm like, could you settle down for like one season here, and then you're gonna get your month in between. So
we're gonna give Matt the laser beam eyes. He He didn't care about Bad Batch.
I've been giving him
Bad
laser
Batch.
beam
I
eyes.
loved Bad Batch. It's just that I am a Jedi guy, like fully, like just Jedi. Like that's my thing. That's what I like laser focus on with my laser eyes. It is the Jedi. So when we're getting a Jedi focused show in the High Republic, which is like one of my favorite things in Star Wars, like that's just peak. And Darth Smiley, I have not been able to stop thinking about Darth Smiley.
You mean
What
Ren?
a cool
Original
design. I do not think it's original Ren. I think it's the Sith Apprentice.
It's just fun speculation.
I know it's fun speculation. And I think there is a certain visual language to the masks that Disney has made for all of their villains that gives off Knights of Ren vibes, because all we've seen of these, like the only dark side villains we've seen with masks have been Rens. We haven't gotten a new Sith on screen since the Disney acquisition. You know, we've gotten plenty of like dark side villains. We've gotten like Inquisitors and stuff, but like a new Sith, like a Sith Lord, we haven't gotten one. This will be the first one on screen.
Sith Lord?
A Sith Lord.
Lord. Yeah.
I wore the hat.
He's trained in the Jedi arts. But that's like this. That's a big deal to me. Like I'm like, ooh, and he looks so cool. It's like, come on.
Hey, anytime I bring up cool Sith people, you're like, I don't care about the Sith.
That's not true.
I think you said that, but
No, that's true. He has said that in the past.
Can we talk about the scene from after Phantom Menace? I know we don't want to
really
spoil
quick
it for anyone, right? But
really quick.
Spoiler alert.
We'll chat really quick about the scene that they showed at the end of the Phantom Menace. So you've pretty much only been able to see it if you've seen the movie in theaters. It's just a trailer scene. It's not really spoiler. But if you're avoiding trailers, just they're even more.
If you're Rohan, it's time to walk out of the theater.
So the Noodle Factory.
What's going on in that noodle shop?
The noodle.
Dude, noodle wheel. Love the noodle wheel.
I love the noodle wheel.
Can't get enough of the noodle wheel.
If they don't have that at the next Star Wars Celebration or the one after that, then what are they doing?
Maybe
that is a big prop
too, if nothing else too.
I'm gonna make one myself.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I mean, it was cool because we got to see it on the big screen, and you know, I've loved Mandalorian, and I mean, say what you will about the visualness of Kenobi, but like this. Andor looked beautiful. This looks beautiful. They're both shot like on sets, on locations, and it shows. Like we were watching the scene on the big screen. Yeah, it matters. It looked beautiful on the big screen. So I imagine it's going to look awesome on our TVs. But yeah,
well,
I'm
that's why I'm gonna be in just a little bit of rumor mongering. It broke today. There is a listing on the Cinemark website that on June 3rd there's going to be screenings of the first 2 episodes.
I think I might try to do that
system.
If they're near me.
Keep that Monday night clear, because as soon as I saw that, I told my wife, I'm off this night. Like, get out of here. Like, kids are yours.
Yeah.
And because I do think, to your point, AJ, like I had the pleasure, and Carl was with me, of seeing the Ahsoka episode on the big screen, and it just feels so great to experience it together. And when the team has put so much work into this show, it should be put up on the biggest screen possible and to let us enjoy it. And all lines point to this show being something really special. I'm actually with Matt. I'm trying not to get hyped up too far, just so my expectations aren't through the roof.
It's so hard.
It's going to be really great.
It can be a dangerous game to be.
I'm struggling with the hype. Chad says I got Acolyte brain rot, and it's true.
This is true.
I got a brain worm. It's the Acolyte.
There's been a few things that Matt has had the absolute brain rot over, and it was Shadow of the Sith, the book from Adam Christopher. That was a really big one. The moment that got announced, it was literally Matt's like phone background.
Yep.
To the point where like at Celebration he like showed Adam and he's like, look at my phone background. And now it's the Acolyte. So like it's been that. But yeah, seeing that promo on the big screen was very cool. Like the scene was incredibly well choreographed, and I can't wait to actually see what's gonna happen. Like we know that we're gonna have like a really good like show with like the action of this, definitely, because like we have Carrie-Anne Moss in this as a Jedi Master, first of all.
God,
she's killing it, and the fight scene was just her and Amanda Stenberg's character, and they were killing it as well. And I'm like, oh my god, this is like already like one of the coolest things. So I'm trying to keep my expectations like incredibly low, like as well, because I'm trying to keep it like Andor season 1 level low for me, like going into it, in which I had 0 expectations, and that blew me into the next dimension. So I got to make sure that the Acolyte for me stays like chill.
Yeah,
and then we'll see what happens from there.
How ingenious is it to combine Star Wars with martial arts, like specifically like Chinese martial arts films, like the floaty wire fu. Oh, how ingenious is that? How ingenious is that? Like that's just so brilliant. How did we not get that in like 1986? Like what were we thinking? Why did we wait so long?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I cannot wait.
I used to love playing the Masters of Terras Kasi video game for, I believe, PlayStation 1. Yeah, I think it was PS1.
There you go, Jordan.
So when Terras Kasi was first mentioned on screen in Solo, I lost my mind. I was so that was so cool.
But we barely saw it. And so like we had like the behind the door fight scene and then the fight scene at the end, but like now we're actually gonna like get more of it, which is going to be just very, very cool.
Yeah. I
just wanted to point out that the Matrix is also 25, and so Carrie-Anne Moss still kicking this much butt is unbelievable. That she looked as good at the skills as she did in that movie. So
definitely,
that's incredible. Wow,
she's gonna kill it no matter what. She always has, and so I'm just super excited to see her in Star Wars. Like she's like one of those actresses that like you never really think to put them in Star Wars, and then once it actually happens, you're like, oh my god, this was this was meant to be. Like,
why did we wait so long?
We haven't even seen it yet, and I already know like it was meant to be.
To tie it to the Phantom Menace, as we're always doing, and to bring this show full circle. How in Phantom Menace, when they're all talking, they're saying like the Sith hasn't been seen for how long do they say?
Millennium. Over a millennium.
It's 1,000 years at least.
So how do we think this show is going to handle that and still have the Sith like unseen from like, do we think all the Jedi in this will die? And like the people that do see these, this possible smiley Sith guy, just, all the witnesses are gone, or what do you think will happen?
I have a feeling, and I don't really know if I like this because I am a big like Jedi defender, maybe a little too much, but I have a feeling
Bariss Offee was right.
Yeah, I was gonna say AJ has some literature. Yeah,
I have a feeling because the way Leslie Headland's been talking about this show, we're gonna see some form of maybe like corruption or questionable behavior from the Jedi, and I think that might extend to the Jedi finding this guy, maybe learning that he could be a Sith, and then burying that information and going into full denial, like deny mode, so that 100 years later, when another Sith shows up, nobody on the council knows about it anymore because the information was buried so deep. I mean, we know they did that in the Clone Wars when they learned about Cypher Dyas's connection to the clones and then connecting that to the Sith. They're like, whoa, this is crazy. Let's not tell anybody about this until we get more information. I think that might be the case with the Acolyte. And again, I don't know how I feel about that. I have to see how it's executed.
You say you don't like it, but like that sounds to add up or line up where we head later on. So
to an extent, I think some of the big like, oh, the Jedi were hubris here. I think that is a little overblown in my opinion. But again, it all just depends on how it's executed. I am down for any idea if they do it in a way I think that is right. And I have full faith in this show to do that. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. We are getting Yoda in this show, right?
It's not been confirmed, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, he has to be there, right? I mean, he probably won't be featured, but
I'm holding
out for Yariel Poof. We know Poof's on the council,
and so is Master Sanube. I really want a living live action Terra Sanube.
And yeah, that's
true. And Yaddle.
And Oppo
Seattle,
Rancisis. Everybody's sleeping on my
Yeah.
boy Oppo. He survived Order 66. He's still kicking or slithering.
Yeah.
He's still out there. He's still doing his thing.
We're not sleeping on him. He's sleeping through council meetings. I'm pretty sure.
That is true. That is true. If we get Mr. Puppet Yoda, if they make Yoda a puppet,
at this point they have to.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry.
Not only that, wheel out the puppet they used in Phantom Menace.
I want
one.
Crack Yoda on screen once again. I want him so bad to be.
I think that they'll put him in. I feel like they haven't shown him in trailers just yet because like he's not like an integral part of the story. Like I would assume he's just on the council or he's doing like what he's doing in the High Republic right now. He's tutoring a group of Padawans, just doing his business.
He's just fucking off. He's
exactly.
He's out of
so,
it.
like he's doing his thing.
Shit.
Like he's not necessarily like important for this part of the story because like by the time it's prequels, he's Grandmaster. So
save him for the show.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to see everything in a trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, no.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
I'm excited. I'm very excited. But yeah,
I agree.
Any final thoughts?
No.
I have too many final
go
thoughts.
for a bit
we'll
here.
be here for another hour, so I'll stop.
So what did we talk about tonight? We talked about
A lot.
Phantom Menace, the Phantom Menace, Phantom Menace,
Tales of the Empire.
Tales of the Empire, and Batman Begins in the Dark Knight, and a little bit about the Acolyte. So we covered a lot today, guys. Like way too much. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight and adding to our nonsense, but actually being awesome about Tales of the Empire and helping us use our brains tonight because this was actually super insightful. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. It was super fun. I loved it. It was so great. Like I said, to meet y'all last weekend and then to be invited on the show this fast. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know Christmas was this soon.
Well, we were going up the escalator to the movie and you guys were talking about Tales of the Empire. And I was like, oh, Tales of the Empire. And then like it was kind of in my head. I was like, oh, they seem like they had some good points. Like, let's have them on. So it all made sense.
My escalator pitch worked.
Yeah, there you go.
You weren't even pitching it to him, but he just heard it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much. We will definitely talk to you again soon, hopefully on the stream or just like in general, we'll be around. And thank you to everyone who's been hanging out with us the entire night tonight in the chat. It's been a long one. Thank you guys for hanging on. If you've been listening to the audio version of this, we also have a video version on YouTube. If you've been watching this video version late, we have an audio version. And then you can find us everywhere on social media at HoloNet Marauders. We'll see you guys soon to talk about more Star Wars. The Bad Batch is over. Tales of the Empire is over, but the Acolyte is coming soon. So we will be talking about that next, maybe something else in between, but we'll see what happens then. We'll see you guys next time on the HoloNet Marauders podcast.